So I remember way back in the day when I first started homeschooling, and I had to teach a child to read. And for some reason, the idea of teaching my kids other things didn't really worry me as much, but for some reason, this idea of teaching a child to read seemed extremely daunting. And I have come to learn it is actually an extremely easy process. So today I am going to show you exactly how I teach my kids to read in 10 minutes a day for less than $20. So if this is our first time meeting, hi, my name is Brittany. I am a homeschool mom of 4 kids, ages 16 all the way down to kindergarten, and we have been homeschooling for almost a decade now, and I like to talk all things homeschool and homemaking over on this channel. So if that is of interest to you, I would love it if you'd stick around and hit that subscribe button. Now, today, I want to talk about teaching reading. So first of all, if you have ventured into the world of reading, you will see that the curriculum is outrageously expensive. Like the best top of the line, you're looking at easily $200 a year to teach your kids to read. And it was never something that I could afford to do. And it just seemed like there had to be an easier way. And there actually is. There is a very simple process that I have used that I start at around age 3 that teaches kids to read around age 5. Now, I will put a caveat on here. I have had some kiddos read a little bit later, and they were not fluently reading until closer to ages 6 to 7, whenever they were really mastering. But there were other extenuating circumstances. We were dealing with some vision issues. I have one of my older kids has dyslexia. So those are different circumstances. But if you're talking about just kids that don't have any kind of learning disabilities or disadvantages, then I am fully convinced that most kids can learn to read by 5. And I actually believe that it's probably for the best that they learn to read by 5. We're not going to get into all of the science behind it today. We're just going to talk about how. So how we first start out is simply by teaching letter sounds. So what you're going to do is just get some normal flashcards. You can get them from the dollar store, very cheap. Ideally, you would want just lowercase letters, but honestly, if they have both, it's okay. It's just that lowercase letters are the best. And from my experience, from what I have read for teaching letter recognition, is starting with lowercase letters and then working into uppercase letters later. So you could even make your own. If you had some flashcards, you could, or note cards, you could just write the letters or print them off onto cardstock and do it that way. Now, here is the trick. We are not going to go A to Z. So I follow the Montessori order for teaching letters. And I have created a nice little printable for y'all. For anybody who wants it, it will be linked in the description box that goes over the order in which we teach letters. So the Montessori method starts with the letters M-A-S-T, M-A-S and T. And so how we go about this is we take the first 3 to 4 letters, and those are the letters that we are going to just repeat. And so I'm going to hold up a flashcard, and I am just going to say, You don't say m, you say And then we're going to move on to our next one. We have and then we have s, and then we have t. We're not ta, we are t. So you're going to say the sound. That is it. You're not going to say M says A says No, you're going to hold up the flashcard and you're going to say and you're going to have your child repeat after you every time you hold up the flashcards. That is it. So that is why we start at 3. I have even started my kids at 2 because my youngest really wanted to do flashcards because her siblings were doing flashcards. So I'm not going to hold my kids back if they don't want to be held back. You just hold a flashcard and you just have them say the sound. A 2-year-old can do this if they wanted to, but 3, absolutely. A 3-year-old can do this. That is all that you are doing. And once they have mastered 1, so whenever you hold flashcards, once they get through M-A-S-T, you just add on the next one. You're going to add on the B. They've mastered all the way through B. You go through to F. And once they've mastered them, I have check boxes on my little principle where you could go and check it off and move on. And you are going to go at their pace. You're not going to worry about 1 letter per day, 1 letter per week. No. However long it takes them to get it, that's how long you go. You let them move at their pace. And with this whole process, when frustration starts, we stop. So we want learning to read to be a very enjoyable experience. And so that's the good thing about starting so young, is that if we need to pause and take a break, we can. So as you are introducing your letters, when we start getting into near the end, we're going to go back over our letters and we're going to introduce this concept of vowels and consonants. We're going to say, once we've taught the names, that the A, E, I, O, U are vowels. And you can even add the sometimes Y. But we're going to say that these are vowels. They are special letters that each word has to have at least one vowel. And so we are going to start introducing this concept of consonant and vowel. So when we start learning about words, we're going to blend a consonant with a vowel whenever we get into blending at age 4. This part is the easy part. The next part is probably the hardest part. I think learning blending is probably the hardest part for kids. So typically this happens around age 4. Sometimes some really bright 3-year-olds can catch on to it. But really, once you hit about 4, you're going to start working on blending. Whew. Okay, forgot 2 important things. My whiteboard and my coffee. Okay, so I like to use a little whiteboard. You can get these at the dollar store. We get them at Dollar Tree for $1.25. So every year I buy a new one because they get gross. So when it comes to blending, we are going to stick to open sounded consonants. So we're going to talk about like M with an A. So something they can hold out. So if we had T or B, it's going to end. It has an ending sound. We are going to find one that is an open sound, and we're going to use that. So we're going ma. We are going to hold our letters so that they are touching each other. This is going to take a long time. My youngest, we were working on blending for several months until she was able to get it. But this is the important part. You're only doing it for 5 minutes. 5 minutes of blending practice, that's it. Because blending is so frustrating. It is so frustrating for kids. Around this time is when I normally start pulling in our phonics pathways. So this is my favorite, teaching your kids to read. It is clearly very well loved. You can get on Amazon for less than $20. Okay, so at the very beginning of this book, they're going over vowels. When you get started with phonics pathways, it is assumed that you already know all of your letters. Your child already knows all of their letters, so you are moving on. So they're going to start teaching them with vowels and vowel sounds. Now, you can skip this if you've already done what we've talked about. You're going to move straight into page 21, and it has all the way across the top where it has, you start with a, ma, a, or me. And so this practices, and this goes on for many pages. So page 21 through 36 is blending. And if you start this when you are doing this, you are going to not move on to the next page until they've mastered this page. So you're going to start with this page and you're going to just keep doing this page until they have completely mastered it. That is the key whenever you start doing this program. If you choose to use phonics pathways, do not move on until they have mastered that page. When you get to page 37, you are going to be stopping for a while because what they have is they have a game. This game is going to have them practicing the blending, a printable that you print off on cardstock, and it has 2-letter words. And so you are going, it has SEROMI, and then it also has several that are stars. So how you play this game is that you put them all face down on the floor, and then you pick a card and you read off what the card says. And then your child picks up a card and they read off what the card says. And then whoever has the most stars at the end of the game wins. Once you get all the way through to page 36, you stop and you play Star Search. And that is their reading for the day, is you're going to just keep practicing. Once they have mastered this part, then you move on. Once again, we're moving at their pace. So try using games like that. Use the whiteboard and then until they catch on. Once again, if they are getting frustrated, stop. even if you just started and they are going through that first word, just stop, give them a couple of days and try again. So once they hit blending, once they move past blending, you can start working on consonant, vowel, consonant, or CVC words. Some kids get here at 3, some kids get here at 4. It just depends. So then in the book, you're going to just follow the same path of just doing the next page. And again, don't move on until they really have mastered it. So once we hit like the CVC letters, we have gone through that point in phonics pathways where we are doing pretty good, and we have a little bit more experience with sounding out the 3-letter words. I will add on the Bob books to kind of help move them on and give them a little bit of confidence, because there is something about finishing a whole book that is really exciting for kids. I also at this point kind of start to add on this is totally optional, because like I said, you can technically teach them to read fully with this one and just maybe some readers. I just, for some mixing it up, I do add on the reading lesson, which is an entirely different book. I don't recommend this one by itself because it doesn't contain all of the phonograms that you need, but it is still fun. And so it is something you can add on. And it really is just to give them a break for whenever they're kind of burnt out on this. For a day or two, I will flip over to that to just kind of mix it up. But you could very easily just do some Bob books while you're taking a break. Okay, so when you get to page 46, there's a list of all of these CVC words. They even have a game that you can play to help work on CVC. We also made another game that is very similar to the Star Search game. I made it a little bit different. I called it Heart Search. So it has CVC letters, and then some of them have hearts. And so it's the same concept because she liked that game so much. And so we used that, and that would take the place of these lists that they have, because they have lists on here that you're supposed to read over and over again once a day. And she just found that so monotonous and she hated it. But if I had it in a game like this, she would do it. And so that was very helpful, and that helped her to really start reading a lot faster because she wanted to play as many rounds of the game as we could. So my biggest piece of advice when teaching reading is do not move on beyond the CVC words until they have fully mastered it. So expect not to move past these CVC words until about age 5. Now, at age 5, you're going to start doing shared reading. So let's talk about how to do shared reading. So these are going to literally just be the library books that you get that you're already probably reading to your kid. And so when you are reading, they're going to sit with you. This is one we read at some point this past week. And so they are going to look at the words and see how many words they can read. And when they get to a word, so they might be able to say, hey, wow, but then they get to this word, what, and they can't read that. If you already know, you can let them try, but if they already pretty much know that they can't read it, just give them the word. We are not going to have them try to sound it out. We can just say, so they would say, hey, wow, and then they would come over here and you would say, what? They might not be able to do is, because that's a z sound, and so you would say is going, and then have them say on. So that's how you do shared reading. Shared reading is not meant to be a test. You are not going to pause. You are not going to wait. The second they stumble, the second they hesitate, you are going to give them the word. It is supposed to be something that makes this experience of reading very enjoyable. It stretches them to where they are feeling like they're able to read harder books, and it gives them this process of getting to sit with you and practice reading. This is something I learned from the Well-Trained Mind. It has been so good for building confidence with reading, and I have used it with my bottom 3 kids, and it has helped them so much in their reading. Now, still, we are not going to push our actual reading lessons, so our phonics pathways, we are not going to push this past 10 minutes a day. That is our cap, is we are not doing more than 10 minutes a day, and then we'll do shared reading. We can do some games if we want to. This is also when I start teaching writing letters. So when teaching writing, I like to make sure to teach the vowels on the sooner side, since they already know the vowels and the consonants. And then we're going to focus on letters that can make words. So you're going to do the M, S, T, B, things that are really easy to make CVC words. And so then we're going to take our little whiteboard, and this is whenever they're going to have fun with it, because you're going to call out a word like bat or map, and they are going to spell the word on their whiteboard. Kids love using whiteboards. And so this will help them to also start learning some spelling and recognizing sounds. And so kind of doing those two things together can be very helpful. So I will do that. We will spend 10 minutes a day doing phonics pathways. We will do a little bit of a shared reader, or we might play a game, like depending on the day. And then we will spend, just do 3 to 4 words on the whiteboard. And that's literally the entirety of their lesson. So yes, once you start getting a little bit higher into 5, you're going to be looking more at like 15 minutes, maybe 20 max if you're doing all of those things, but that's not at the very beginning level. When you hit a snag, which you are going to hit snags, you need to pause. Do not continue to move forward. I have talked to so many people, and I've seen it so many times where a kid gets stuck on something, they hit a snag, and I've done it myself, and they don't want to get stuck behind on their curriculum. And so rather than taking a pause, they just keep pushing forward, and then they spend more time on it, longer periods of time during the day, and then they start getting frustrated, and then their kid gets frustrated, and then everybody's just in tears. When you hit a snag, and a snag looks like consistently getting frustrated or lots of tears, that's a snag. We are going to pause the curriculum. We're going to pause, like for us, the phonics pathways, we're going to put that away for now. We are going to do shared reading, and we are going to do games, and we are going to work on our CVC. Because a lot of times, if you can take it back to the CVC, take it back to the blending, if they're struggling with CVC, you kind of take them back a step, it builds their confidence back up, and you will normally be able to push forward, and it gives their brain time to kind of just like marinate on all of the information that they've received at this point, and they're able to pick back up without the frustration. We want reading to be an extremely enjoyable experience. So you read to them a lot, read with them on the shared readers a lot, and then play a lot of games with reading. If they will do the whiteboard and they want to practice making their letters, let them do that. So wherever they're at, take them back a step, wait a week or 2, and then pick up the curriculum and try it again. They will not have a bad experience with the curriculum if the second they hit a snag, it's an option to put it away. They only start resenting the curriculum whenever it's, oh, I hit a snag, and now we're going to have to keep pushing forward and pushing forward and pushing forward. But here's the good thing. You've started your child at 3, 4, 5. So therefore, you have plenty of time to catch on. If you're starting at 6 and they're maybe a little bit struggling to catch on, you're going to feel pressured to continue to push forward because you're going to fall behind. So starting a little bit younger gives you ample time to take your time with it. And then it's very easy peasy. You just follow the book. Do everything. Even if the game seems kind of silly to you, do it anyway, because some of the games that were the silliest to me were the most beloved to my child. So making sure that you are doing everything that it says, because it can just provide you another way of introducing a concept or reinforcing something that maybe they're struggling with, like using the Star Search game and being able to default back to something and kind of reinforce. I personally love this curriculum. It's so simple. It's very easy. It's one book. It's so easy to use. I talked before about my second son who had some issues with eye tracking. I didn't even realize this was in the back of the book, and I wish I had, because they even have things in the back that talks about vision and motor coordination training exercises. So just simple games that you can play with them that can help them to train their eyes, which is really good because you have to be able to bring your eyes together in order to read. And so if you have a child that's struggling, going to the back of the book and doing some of these exercises to make sure you are covering your bases with that and that they are not struggling to keep their eyes pulled together, that can help also with being able to read. And the fact that they have it included in the book is just speaks even more to why I love this. So I believe that Phonics Pathways takes them all the way up to a second grade reading level. Normally, we start adding more and more readers in My other children didn't even finish the book because they were just able to read. And then we moved on to some other phonics programs that really reinforced all of the other phonics principles, and they were a little bit over it. I don't think with my youngest I'm going to skip any of this because I just think it's really good. And if you're combining it with doing the practice on the whiteboard, I think you might even be able to do a lot of skipping on spelling programs as well. So that's basically it. It's actually a very easy process to teach a child to read. It's more intuitive than you think that it is. If you have taught your child to do anything, if you've taught them their colors, or if you've taught them how to count or anything like that, you can teach reading. It's not that hard. It seems so intimidating, but it is actually very easy to do. You just have to be patient with it. Don't rush them. Let them take their time doing it and try to have fun with it. So thank you for hanging out with me today. Please like this video if it was helpful or encouraging to you in any way. Once again, if you are interested in homemaking or especially homeschooling, because I do a lot of homeschooling content, don't forget to subscribe. And if you are not currently following me over on Instagram, as always, it is in the top left corner. So go on over there and do that. And with all that being said, I hope you have a fantastic week, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.